Right, well, winter is now well and truly upon us. No doubt some of you already know that. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to run through some very basic winter preparation car maintenance, or a sort of winter preparation car checklist, sort of things that you need to do really, or certainly things that I do to prepare myself and my car for the coming bad weather. Now, we've already had some pretty bad frosts, so it's only a matter of time before I believe the snow will be here. So I'm just going to do a very quick overview of the kind of things and the kind of checks that I do on my car that you will certainly benefit from if you did them on yours. Hope you find them interesting and helpful. For more technical information, so if you want to look at the things I talk about or explore them in greater depth and in more knowledge, then I'm going to put a link on the bottom to Andy's website, because Andy is, or certainly used to be, a car mechanic, and he runs quite a successful mechanics blog and a website and also a YouTube site. It's very insightful, he's very knowledgeable, and the information and help that he will give you and you'll get from his sites will see you in good stead. So let's start with the basics. What I would say is now is the time to go around your car on the inside and make sure that everything works, especially everything that's electrical. So things like the hooter, things like the indicators, things like the wipers, and things like the lights. Go around and make sure that all these are working now, because what you don't want to do is be driving around in the winter at the dead of night when it's cold, it's snowy, you're probably all by yourself, miles away from nowhere, only to find that these things then let you down. Not good. One important thing to test now, because you've probably not had it on all the way through the summer, is your heater. So make sure that your heater is now working as it should be and blowing nice hot air through. Put it on all the speeds and also put it on all the settings. My car is very basic, to say the least. So I've only got sort of 3 or 4 settings. I've got on the windscreen, I've got on the windscreen and my feet, I've got in my face and on my feet, and I've got just blowing on my face. Go through all the different settings at all the different speeds and make sure that they work now. Okay. Handbrake, make sure the handbrake works, and just have a look to see whether or not there are any sort of switches on the doors. And I've got electric windows. Very posh. Quite a luxury for me in actual fact. Personally, I would sooner have wind-up windows, because one of the big things that happens, or one of the worst things that happens with electric windows, is that people forget that although it's nice and warm inside the car and it might be snowy and frosty outside, the window itself and the window motor and all the gubbins inside the door may still be frozen, and they only find this out when they pull up somewhere, press the electric window button to wind their window down, hear a tremendous crack, and find out that either the motor is virtually packed up or exploded, or the window is cracked and split or whatever, but something will have happened, and you can bet your life it'll be at the most inconvenient time and possibly be quite costly. So make sure that the motors work now. If they're a little bit stiff, what I like to do is just down the runners, down the seals where the window will run at each side, I give it a squirt of WD-40, and this helps the window go up and down nice and smoothly. So what we're trying to do is create as least amount of friction between the glass and any rubber seals and mountings that you have inside the window and door frame. It's also a good time now to go around your car on the outside and look at the door locks, and again with a squirt of WD-40 this will hopefully not only prevent your locks from seizing up, but also if there's any moisture and water in there, it will also help to disperse that, and the WD-40 will also lubricate the lock mechanisms. So basically that's all I can think of at the moment for the inside and the sort of outside locks. So next I'm going to look at the outside and look at the sort of the windows, the wipers, and then we'll get under the bonnet. Now's the time to start looking at your windscreen. And what you're looking for now is any sort of small chips or cracks, because what will happen now is that you'll put the heater on when you need it in the car, and that lovely hot air will meet the cold exterior of the windscreen, and if there's any chip on your windscreen, it will start to crack, and lo and behold, right in front of your eyes, it will probably crack straight the way across your windscreen. And I can say this from personal experience because that's exactly what happened to me. So if there are any small chips or cracks on your window now, get them done. And the funny thing is, this is normally free for a lot of people. If you're sort of fully comprehensive, a lot of these sort of windscreen repair people will come out and do that chip free of charge. So really you've got no excuse not to get that done. And believe me, it's far better than paying out something like £600–800 for a brand new windscreen later on, and that's if you can get one. So check your windscreen for any little chips and cracks and get them done now. Also, have a look at your wiper blades. Make sure that they're in good condition and that they're nice and soft and not hard or feel brittle to the touch, especially the blades where they touch the windscreen, because they are very delicate things. If they're stiff and brittle, the chances are they're going to split and crack. And again, what you don't want in the winter is to be putting on your windscreen wipers when you're behind some kind of truck that's spitting up all sorts of rubbish onto your window, only to find that you can't clear it. So any splits and cracks in your windscreen wipers, get them fixed now. It's a cheap fix, but it could, and I'm not joking about this, possibly save your life. And don't forget, a lot of cars, mine as well, have windscreen wipers on the rear. So again, make sure that you check those as well, for the same reasons as you checked the ones at the front. Take this opportunity to check the condition of your battery. If it's a battery where you can actually top up the fluids, and you can normally tell because there'll be sort of screws, sort of big plastic screws or some other kind of knobs on the top of it, take off those tops, follow the manufacturer's instructions or look in your maintenance manual, but normally there'll be a level on the outside of the battery or even on the inside that you can see through the holes. Top it up with proper top-up water. I used to use tap water in the old days, not recommended I have to say, although I'm sure many of us have done it in the past. You can actually buy proper top-up water. As an old tip, if you've got a plastic container out in your garden, then collect the rainwater, and as long as that water doesn't touch any metal surface, then that would be ideal. So if you've got a runoff tank and it's plastic guttering or a plastic bucket and it doesn't touch anything metal, use the water that you collect in that to top up your battery. Also use that to top up the water in your radiator, as this will help both of them stop furring up in the long run. Make sure that the terminals are in good condition and not sort of corroded. If there is slight bits of corrosion, then I sometimes put on there a little bit of Vaseline or some grease, just to keep them sort of protected from the water and the wet and the salt from the road. Make sure it's securely fastened, and that it's not going to wobble, shake or come loose. Next we have checking the water in the windscreen washer bottle. Again, make sure that this is up to the full level, and there is usually a mark on the outside, or you can take off the cap and look inside and just make sure it's full. It's a good idea to put some additive in there now to stop it freezing up, and it also acts as a sort of detergent to wash a lot of the rubbish off your windscreen. And obviously these may be located in different parts of your engine, but if you look at your maintenance manual, or if you give Andy a call or a shout on his website or his YouTube channel, I'm sure he'll be able to help and advise you. Right, making sure that you have the correct amount of fluid in your radiator or cooling system. Most cars now have what they call an expansion tank, and this is where all the filling up takes place. Again, they may be located in different places and they may look slightly different on your vehicle, so check your maintenance manual or your car manual, or as I said before, Andy I'm sure will be only too happy to be able to help you. Now on the outside of this bottle there will be some markings. I think it says minimum and maximum, and that's where you want to see the water level, which you can see through the plastic container. That's where you want to see it. You want to see it on that maximum level, or certainly in between a minimum and maximum. If there's not any antifreeze in there, then woe betide you, because it needs to be in there. And normally it's the kind of thing that is done on the service, to be honest. Antifreeze, although you may not know it, is also a good coolant in the summer. So you should always have some kind of antifreeze in the system at all times. It acts as a coolant in the summer, and it also acts as a deterrent from freezing, obviously, in the winter. This is where you put the mixture of either water or antifreeze, not in the radiator cap like you used to do in the olden days. I say olden days, it wasn't that very long ago, but older cars never had an expansion tank. It was literally just popped straight into the radiator. But obviously, as you can see, we've come on a long way since then. And this is quite a basic car, but even this has got it, so I can't imagine there'll be too many cars without an expansion tank. Now there is a correct balance or ratio of antifreeze to water. Again, check your details. It will probably tell you on the bottle of antifreeze, to be honest. But usually, as a rough guide, I do a sort of 50-50. I make sure I've got 50% antifreeze, 50% water at the very least, and then I know I'm protected. If you're not sure how to put any more in because the expansion tank is already at the maximum level, and you think, well, I've got to add some more in, at the bottom of your radiator somewhere there'll be a little tap, and you can turn that tap, empty the radiator of water, turn the tap back, start the engine for a few seconds, which will then circulate the remaining water and sort of blow out any bubbles. Take the top off your expansion tank, and then top it up to the level with a 50-50 mixture. Okay, it's very basic. Forgive me if I may have got it wrong slightly, but you certainly won't do any harm by doing what I've told you. It's a good idea now also to check all these rubber hoses. Okay, not just these that go to the radiator, but any other rubber hoses that you see in the engine bay, because if you see any signs of cracking or dryness or flaking, then now's the time to get them fixed. They're normally very, very cheap to fix, but very expensive to put right if it all goes wrong. So now's the time, before it gets too bad, to get anything like that sorted. Right, I'm now going to check the oil of my car. As you can see there's the dipstick. I was fascinated to know, I was really interested to know, I was watching Fifth Gear the other day, and they said that astoundingly over 80% of people never check their oil, and their cars are possibly running with the minimum, if they're lucky, amount of oil in the engine. And I just find that staggering, and I think it's just the way that I've been brought up, where every weekend I do a quick check of oil and water, battery, and so on and so forth. It takes about 15 minutes, well, not even 15 minutes to be honest, to do these very quick and simple checks, which in the long run, believe me, could be the sort of the longevity of your car, or the disastrous end of your car if you don't get them right. So it's worth spending just a few minutes to find out where your dipstick is and where your expansion tank is and where the other bits and pieces are, because in the long run it will either save you from major disaster or cost you a fortune. So let's check the oil. Right, first of all, there is the dipstick on my car. They're normally always painted with a yellow top, so they're easily recognizable. Okay, here it is on mine, and again for your particular vehicle you may have to look at your manual, but to be honest I wouldn't have thought that you'd find it too difficult to find. Okay, so there it is on mine, and there it is from a slightly different angle. And you can see the yellow top of it stands out quite clearly, although I have to say I do keep it clean. I do get the old rag on it every so often just to highlight it. And I do this particularly because I'm actually showing Alex, my boy, how to look after cars very basically as well, so that it's a little bit familiar to him when he starts driving. So it's a simple case of pulling out the dipstick and giving it a wipe. What you're doing is just wiping off the oil that's already on the dipstick. Give it a good old clean. And now what you'll see is on the bottom of the dipstick there are actually some markings. Okay, and there's the end of the dipstick, and there, let's just zoom in and see if you can see that you've got some sort of little crisscrossy patterns on there, a little bit of little scouring or etching, and you'll also see an L for low and an F at the top for full. Now anywhere in between there would be good. You certainly don't want it down the lower end of it, and to be perfect it should be just on the line of full. Now underfilling is just as bad as overfilling, so try and keep it on that mark if possible. Don't overfill thinking that you're doing yourself any favours, because in the long run you won't. Okay, so there's the dipstick. Right, so it's nice and clean. I've now going to pop it back in the hole where it's come from. Give it a second and then pull it back and check the oil, and the oil on mine is just where it should be. Yippee! So the oil on mine, as you can see, is just underneath the F for full, so I'm going to put a tiny bit of oil in there and then all will be good. So I'm going to wipe that down again. Whilst you're doing this, just check the quality of the oil as well. Give it a little smell. Seems a bit strange, but it shouldn't smell like anything, to be honest. So if it smells a little bit burnt or a little bit oily, it's probably time to change it. And also the colour, it should be almost clear, really. It's sort of slight amber colour. So the darker it is, indicates the more that the oil is actually breaking down and wearing out, and indicates a time to perhaps think about changing it. Okay, this is looking very dark, and I will be changing my oil completely in the next few days. Right, the next thing for me to check is the air filter, and again these will be located in different places on your vehicle. I'm very lucky on this car that it's easily accessible, as you can see. Some cars I know are an absolute nightmare to get to. This, I couldn't wish for an easier air filter. 4 clips, one on each corner, and unclip those. I pull off the top, and inside is the air filter. This is a sort of what they call a cartridge, paper cartridge type of filter. And as you can see, it's clean on that side, which is what it should be, and it's dirty on that side because it's obviously doing its job and trapping all the dirty air. Now this one is alright for a while, but I am going to change this. I'm going to change the oil anyway, so for me it only makes sense that I would change the air filter at the same time. So at the moment it's all okay, it's okay, but I'm going to change that in the next couple of days. Pop it back in there. 4 clips, couldn't be simpler, as I said, on this car. That's why I do love the old Suzukis, I've got to be honest. And the thing is, you've got no excuse not to keep them maintained, because they're so easy to do. The air filter. So there you have it. I hope it's been helpful and useful. As I said, I'm going to put Andy's link in the description box underneath here, so do have a look. There it is, I believe, down there. Click onto that, and that will take you to his YouTube site, where he's got more in-depth information about keeping your car running, both winter, summer and long term. So have a look at that. That's my car, very basic, as I say. I'm no mechanic by any means. I pride myself in the fact, though, that I've managed to keep this car running as long as I have. It's a 1998, 99 model, and I had it from new, and I do try my best to keep it running as best that I can. Very basic maintenance. So there's no reason or rhyme for you to feel embarrassed because you don't know where anything is on your car, or even the simple things like how to lift the bonnet up, which it's not quite as simple as what you'd think. Some of the ingenious hiding places that manufacturers come up with just astound me. Mine in particular is actually hidden in the glove box, the catch to lift up my bonnet. Who would put it in there, and why would you put it in there? And is that the first place that you would look? I don't think so. So basic things like just getting your bonnet up can be an embarrassment when you don't know, because you think it's very straightforward stuff.
I don't even know what to say. It's not very often I'm found speechless, but there you go. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for that.